You're listening to the Friends Talking Nerdy Podcast Network.
Friends Talking Nerdy. If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Hey everybody, how's it going there? This is Tim Jousma coming at you with another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. Coming at you solo once again this week, but rest assured, on the next episode of Friends Talking Nerdy, the Reverend Tracy will be back. As mentioned before, the Reverend did take some time off in order to spend time with your stepchildren, and unfortunately, I say that in terms of the sadness that the Reverend is currently experiencing. Unfortunately, that time did have to come to an end, but I know the Reverend has had a lot of great memories, and I'm sure we're going to hear about them next week as well. And it was also very cool to actually spend some time with the Reverend in person. So if you are listening to Reverend Tracy, I cannot wait to have you back on the show next week. So yeah, one more time solo here for me. So before we get into the heart of the matter for today's show, I did want to bring up one item that has been in the news. I know how much the Reverend loves professional wrestling, so this is something that I felt is probably best to tackle alone here. I say that about the Reverend too, and I say that with a laugh because the Reverend admittedly would be the first to tell you he loves to talk, but when it comes to pro wrestling, that's the only time I've ever seen here just absolutely go absolutely silent, and it's funny every time it happens. But anyway, Vince McMahon, what a douchebag in so many ways. I mean, for anybody to get that amount of money, they have secrets. I mean, Bill Gates has secrets. Jeff Bezos has secrets. Steve Jobs had secrets. People that have that mindset to where they have to have absolutely everything and nothing will stop them until they get their way, that is a mental disorder. Unfortunately, people in this country think it's something that should be worshipped and revered. To be clear, though, having said that, that doesn't mean in any of those people's case that everything they do is bad. Bill Gates with Microsoft, for all the problems the Microsoft operating system gives and will continue to give over time, there's a reason it's the most popular operating system out there. For most people's basic computer needs, it does everything and then some. For Steve Jobs with Apple, same thing. Just quality products that have definitely improved people's lives for the better. Think about all the people that have had used Apple devices, whether it be the mobile devices or the computers, to create music and or edit their own movies or whatever. That's pretty awesome. And when it comes to Vince McMahon too, just the setting up a company that can provide basic entertainment like professional wrestling to make the world happy. Professional wrestling, if you wanted to compare that to food, professional wrestling is like a hamburger, is like a hot dog. It is very basic. There is no subtlety to professional wrestling whatsoever, and I get that it is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it does have its enjoyability. But again, back to Vince McMahon. Word has come out that he has paid a lot of money in non-disclosure agreements to keep women that were formerly employed by the WWE quiet about sexual exploits that he has had with them. And we are talking in the tune of millions of dollars, over $12 million, according to the Wall Street Journal. And it should go without saying, if you are in a position of leadership anywhere, in any sort of company whatsoever, you do not have romantic relationships with anybody under you at all. Because the situation that comes at hand is it does create a power imbalance. And even if everything was totally consensual, still there's a imbalance there, because, like, for instance, one of the people that McManus gave an NDA to, $2 million to, was a woman that was hired as a paralegal. Ultimately made about $200,000 a year doing that, while she was having a relationship with Vince McMahon. And again, Vince said that this relationship was consensual, which, whatever, but think about the power imbalance here. She is a woman making $200,000 a year, dating a man in his 70s who's a billionaire. And he's going to have a lifestyle that, that she would maybe get used to over time, that she wouldn't necessarily have. Also, too, think about just the fact that, she's dating the boss. She's making money, and what would happen if down the line she thought, maybe I don't want to date him anymore, but if I tell him I don't want to date him, I'm going to lose my job. That is not cool. So even if it was absolutely consensual, even if all of these NDAs end up being quote unquote consensual in terms of it wasn't the evil, malicious stuff you would see, it wasn't rape or anything like that. I'm not trying to apologize. I hope you're getting my point here. But, just the people in leadership, there is no reason to have a romantic relationship with any of your underlings. Now, one thing that people are also talking about, too, which got me a little upset, is that they're also bad-mouthing Vince and his wife, Linda, because Vince is a married man. However, the word has come out that for at least a good decade now, even though they are still married on paper, they live in separate homes. And guess what? If that is the arrangement that they have come to that works for them, and having this arrangement still allows them to be married, and they are happy with that, then they are happy with that. That has nothing to do with the actions that Vince is under investigation for from his own board of directors here. So I would hope that line of conversation would be tossed out of the way here, because, life goes on. You can certainly love somebody and realize that, hey, I love this person, but maybe not so much in a romantic way anymore. If people are actually having these honest conversations, and if Vince and Linda did sit down and have an honest conversation and say, hey, the romantic spark is not there, but I still love you. It is in our best interest to remain married for various reasons, including financial, which is not a bad thing to consider. Then again, that's what works for them. That is irrelevant to the issues that Vince McMahon is currently under investigation for. So as it goes on, I'll definitely keep you like I said, the Reverend's not going to give a shit about professional wrestling, so I will give an update in some way, shape, or form here about this situation once it comes to a resolution, because as I mentioned, the WWE Board of Directors is currently investigating the situation, as they should, because if company money was used in an inappropriate way, even if you are the CEO, even if you are such an integral part to the company as Vince McMahon is to the WWE, there has to be accountability for actions. And think about it, if you're just a Wall Street investor, do you want to invest your money? Do you want to invest lots and lots of money into a company where you have a CEO so brazenly, just throwing away money on non-disclosure agreements while on the other hand, releasing tons and tons of talent during a pandemic and saying that was for budget cuts? Come on. Okay, so the heart of the show is this. For the solo shows here, I do like to go with a playlist theme in terms of getting a playlist together, telling you the reason for the choices here. But what I did this week was a little different. I was initially going to go with the 10-year playlist idea and go with an idea of my 10 favorite tracks from 1996, but I wanted to mix it up a little bit. So what I did is I reached out to my oldest son, Izaak, and his lady friend, Onyx, and I asked them to send me some music that they're currently enjoying right now. And I would definitely comment on it as well. So before I do go on, I will say, because these are the choices that they have sent me, and if they're listening right now, I am, of course, going to give my honest opinion of the song, but it is not in my nature to insult anybody. It is okay for me to not like something while someone else does. Just because I may not enjoy a certain artistic thing doesn't make it bad. So anyway, here we go with the list. Number 1 is a classic. This is from my son Izaak here, and it is the title track from the album Thriller, Michael Jackson. And it's funny that he puts this on because, all I can hear in my head when I hear this song is just a voice. A certain voice talking about, isn't that demon inspired? Are you sure you want to watch that? And it turned out that, most anything I liked ended up being demon inspired, but that's a different story for a different day. But what is there to say about this song that hasn't already been said? I mean, it's got a great groove. The video, I think more than anything, the video is better than the song. I think the video made the song so much more epic than what the album originally presented. The video was directed by John Landis, who directed Animal House, the Blues Brothers movie. Unfortunately, the first segment in The Twilight Zone, the movie from 1982, which saw 3 people die on set. Interesting story there. And also the makeup for Thriller was done by Rick Baker, who did the physical makeup for An American Werewolf in London, which was another John Landis movie as well. But again, what more is there to be said about this? It is an absolute classic, and yeah, you got to listen to it. So the first track here that Onyx gave was a track called Lost Boy from an artist by the name of Ruth B. Now, listening to it, it reminded me of Adele. I'm showing my age here, admittedly, because this is the only sort of current pop reference, sort of current music reference I have to be able to compare this to. So I'm sorry if it's not quite a perfect match here, but it did kind of sound like Adele. I did like the soulful vocals on it, and the piano track too was pretty mellow. For me, normally my music is usually pretty loud and screamy, lots of explosions and all that stuff. But this is definitely a nice track. Not my personal favorite, but it's not bad, let's put it that way. All right, the next track here is a second track that my son Izaak picked. It is from the Revenge of the Sith soundtrack, and it is Battle of the Heroes. And when I saw this on his list, I was like, oh my god, he's my boy. Growing up, probably one of the first things I did with him was introduce him to the world of Star Wars. Like we would watch The Empire Strikes Back, and it would be at the start of the movie when Han's like, hey, I'm going back, and Luke's like, hey, I'm going to search around. There's potentially Wampas here. And then his Tauntaun gets a little fidgety. He goes, what's that, girl? And then there's one of the big snow monsters pops up. And then every time that happened in The Empire Strikes Back, I'd go, Aunt Colleen. And cause that's my sister, their aunt, and scare them that way. So that got them interested in the movies, and it was cool. Seeing him put this track on the list here too, because I've always enjoyed listening to songs from movie soundtracks as well. I mean, one, it does bring back of the actual movie, but two, as a writer myself, sometimes hearing songs that are in particular scenes in movies that you watch can evoke the types of feelings you want to put in your own work. And when it comes to the music that John Williams came up with the prequel trilogy, for as much critique as you can offer episodes 1, 2, and 3, the music for those movies was probably some of the best work John Williams ever did. Let's put it that way. All right, the next track from Onyx here that she chose was a song called New Americana from Halsey. I'm familiar with the name Halsey, but not really too familiar with her work. The song, again, sounded like an Adele track, so I apologize if it's not quite the exact match here, but I dug this song because I could see this being really cool to listen to live. You know, when we used to review albums on the show here, I would comment sometimes that there are certain songs and certain albums that we would review that didn't necessarily work on the album, but you could see it working really, really good with an audience, because if you have a good lead singer, then they're going to be able to get the audience involved and get some back and forth going on. And I think that this song here, New Americana, I could easily see that being the case. So I dig it. I did dig that. All right. The next track here, for my son Isaac, this one kind of shocked me, but in a good way. It's The Devil Went Down to Georgia from the Charlie Daniels Band. The reason I was shocked, like my big fear as a parent growing up when it came to introducing my kids to music was I didn't want to do what my mother did. Now, my mother, went out of her way to try to force her musical taste on me. Like the first album that she ever bought me was, it was a gas station greatest hits album of Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn. Now, what do I mean by gas station greatest hits? For truck stops all across the country, you'll see that they'll have very cheap CDs or cassettes even these days that are from artists that are big names, but each track on there is like B-sides or live tracks or whatever, and it's like these companies are able to get their hands on the rights to these songs for pennies on the dollar and able to put out cheap stuff out there. But that's what my mother got me. And then she would also try and tell me, you shouldn't listen to that band Kiss. You know what Kiss means? It's Knights in Satan's Service and Ozzy's with the devil and all that stuff. And of course, I had to see Kiss live in concert, and I saw Ozzy in concert, and nothing really went that wrong with me, Ma. But this track here, Charlie Daniels was one hell of a fiddle player. There's a difference between a fiddle and a violin, of course, how you play it. And I know with Isaac, he is also a big fan of classical music as well, and I believe he played the violin. And if you did not play the violin, I stand corrected, and I apologize for not remembering Isaac. But I know he appreciates good musicians, and that makes me proud too, so a good musician, no matter what type of music they're playing, you're going to be attracted to that. And, I know country music is probably not Isaac's, is not Isaac's go-to choice, but it made me proud kind of seeing this track on here. So good on you, man. All right, the next track here that Onyx picked, I hope I pronounced this artist's name correctly, and I'm probably not going to, but the song is called Middle of the Night, and it's Elley Duhe. Again, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but I did enjoy the type of Spanish guitar that opened up the song. That was really good. The track was moody, which I really liked as well, and I could see this working in a movie. Not like an action movie or anything like that, but this would be great in like a tense scene, like the protagonist is on screen and they think somebody's after them, but they don't know who. And I think the song would be absolutely perfect for setting the mood. It gave vibes of like what used to happen with Miami Vice back in the day. Now, the old Miami Vice TV show is unwatchable by today's standards, but the beauty of what it did was kind of, introduce what you could do with pop music in like action movies or detective stories or just stories in general. And I think this song would be perfect in a movie. So there is that. The next track from my son Isaac here that he chose was a cover of the Van Morrison song Moondance from Michael Buble. And again, another choice that I was like, good on you for stretching out your musical choices there, man. Good choice there. Now, Buble is kind of like a 21st century Sinatra, sings the same type of in terms of his delivery, delivers songs in much the same way, kind of like a saloon singer-ish type of thing. And I'm glad artists like him are still around, keeping that type of tradition going, because, like Sinatra, Dean Martin, there is a lot of great songs from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s from those artists that I think could still speak to people today if they're delivered in the right way. So, this was, not much more to say on this particular song here. It was pretty straightforward, but this was a good choice. The next track here that Onyx chose was from an artist called NF. The song was Trauma. When I heard it, it reminded me of Evanescence a little bit, which did bring some flashbacks, because when I was married, there were times when I would come home, open the door, I would hear an Evanescence song and know that my night was not going to end well. So hearing that particular song here did remind me of Evanescence a little bit. But also, and I don't say this in a bad way as well, I'm not being sarcastic here, but I could also hear this song used in like a Humane Society type of commercial. There is nothing wrong with using music as an emotional appeal to get people to support your cause. Which people may have a little fun, with Sarah McLachlan and her music always showing up in music like that, but when you hear her music, you do think of animals and you want to save them because of her sad voice. And I think this song kind of fit that mood. And again, I'm not saying that in a sarcastic way at all. I think it would be good. But all right, the next track here that Izaak chose, his last track that he chose here, was from an artist called Malia J, and it is her cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit. And I first heard this, and I don't know if he first heard this in the movie as well, or if he heard it separately. But I first heard it in the opening of the movie Black Widow from Marvel Studios. And for a cover, I really enjoyed it. Because it's weird the older you get, because Nirvana, for me, I didn't follow them in their club days or anything like that, but they first became big when I was a kid, and they weren't already established like like they were for my kids once they started coming into music. So it's always fun seeing like younger people, even through time, just younger people taking an older song and doing something new and unique with it. Just the vocal delivery in the song is top notch. And if there's any song, if there's any cover that you're going to listen to of Nirvana, check this one out. You will not be disappointed. The last song here on the list that Onyx chose is a Billie Eilish song, and it's a song called You Should See Me in a Crown. In the past, I've not been too impressed with Billie Eilish. That's just my choice. It's cool that she has fans and she's making lots of money, and not every bit of music has to be made for me. But listening to this song, I really dug it. It felt like it should have been in an action movie. I could see an action, like a John Wick type of movie with a female protagonist, and it would have to be a scene to where the woman's coming into a room, got guns ready, just blowing everybody away, bang, 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 and then just action everywhere, kicking, just violence. It's so great. And then we're down to the last person, and the bad guy's like, oh my God, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. And then the female protagonist looks at the guy, raises her gun, and says, hail to the queen, baby. I could just hear this song playing in the background the entire time. But that was 10 tracks from my son Izaak and his lady friend Onyx. So thank you both very much for getting back to me with telling me these songs here. And, it's like I've said before in the past, music is a way to kind of get to know somebody. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. And if you are listening to the show, thank you for that as well. So once again, thank you all for listening. Everybody else, once again, to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. Next week, the Reverend Tracy will be back, and I'm definitely excited for that. So every Saturday in this podcast space, we will have something to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you Adieu.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.